ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Welcome to the second session on developing vibrant communities through devotee care. We are very happy to have with us His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So as part of the Temple Development Systems and Administration Committee, we are having this seminar with a focus on how devotee care can help build communities, temples, projects, and yesterday we had the first session. Before we begin our second session, we just wanted to have an idea how many of you were there yesterday for the session. Okay, how many were not there yesterday? Okay, so this gives us a fair idea about how many slides we need to repeat again, because we were supposed to complete the slideshow yesterday but we couldn't, so we were in two minds whether to move on from where we left or to start off from beginning. So we'll just take you through the different slides of the presentation, and probably a little faster than yesterday, and then we will move on to the case study of the different initiatives at Srila Gopinath temple. So we begin with this beautiful slide on devotee care or Vaishnava Seva. Care means personal attention in serving each devotee, and to serve a Vaishnava means to serve his body, mind and soul. By creating facilities so that their bodies are fit to engage in devotional service, mind is through encouragement, appreciation, and by being a well-wisher that can be trusted, and soul is by creating an ambience where devotees feel inspired to take shelter of hearing and chanting. So at this point I would like to ask Maharaj about some of the descriptions of devotee care in scriptures which form the foundation for our application of devotee care, if you would like to share.
Hare Krishna. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhashtadesha Dharani Vanchakalpatarubhyas Chakripasindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yesterday was the first PowerPoint presentation I ever made in my life. And still I dare to try it again. I'm very grateful to be among all of you. I was giving yesterday a story of Krishna, where a little calf in his herd of millions of calves was feeling separation from her mother. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains in mathematical terms the inconceivable number of calves that were in Krishna's herd when he went out every day. And one of those little calves was crying for her mother because it was the first day in her life being separated from her mother. And she was kind of in that pasture, surrounded by so many other calves. Krishna seemed to be a distance away, and she felt so lost, disoriented, and alone. And she started to cry. Krishna came right to where that calf was standing and put his arm around her neck and began to scratch her in a very affectionate way. And sweetly he spoke in her ear. He said, "It's all right. I'm with you. And very soon, I'll take you back to your mother. She's waiting for you. She's safe. She'll be so happy to be with you. And you'll be so happy to be with her. I'll take you back to her. Until then, I'm with you." That calf became fearless because she felt she was being cared for by Krishna. And this is the spiritual world whereby Krishna's Achintya Shakti, his inconceivable potencies, everyone, every leaf, every flower, every tree, every animal, every insect, every devotee of every variety feels completely, lovingly protected by Krishna. And every devotee feels that same love and care from every other devotee. Aham bija pradapita. Krishna tells, I'm the seed-giving father and mother of every living being. Krishna loves everyone. And Mad Bhakta Puja Vyadika. Krishna says a higher form of worship than to me directly is to worship my devotee. This is at the very heart of Vaishnava culture. To recognize Krishna's love for the devotees. And to act accordingly. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to South India, Nityananda Prabhu said, I will go with you because you need my care. I know all the places, I've already been there, and I can take you and I can arrange everything. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, what kind of servant are you? After taking sannyas, I was so eager to go to Vrindavan, and you were my guide, and you took me the other direction to Shantipur. And when we were going to Puri together, you broke my danda in 3 places and threw it in the river. And Anyways, Lord Chaitanya was actually expressing his intimate love for Lord Nityananda through these apparently chastising words. But Nityananda Prabhu said, but there's this one brahmachari named Kal Krishna Das. He's not so intimate and close with you like the rest of us. He will make a very good assistant. Because after all, you have to carry your water pot and with one hand, and you'll be chanting on your beads, and you'll be counting your chanting, and you have an extra set of cloths, so you need someone to carry for you. So in the process of the South Indian tour, we read in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that Kal Krishna Das betrayed the Lord. He was seduced by very powerful tantrics to leave Lord Chaitanya, to go with them, to live under their immoral association. Lord Chaitanya had to go to those Patarhadis and said, you are all like sannyasis, I am sannyasi, you have servants, I also have my servant. Why have you taken my servant? Please give him back to me. They picked up knives, axes, swords, and there were many of them. They all came running to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to kill him. And Lord Chaitanya, he just peacefully stood there looking. But by his inconceivable powers, the weapons themselves in the hands of the Bhattaharis came out of their hands and started chopping, stabbing, and slicing them. Their limbs were being cut off, they were running, they were screaming, and Lord Chaitanya took his servant by the hair and saved him. When he came back to Puri, Lord Chaitanya, he said to the devotees, he betrayed me. He can do anything he likes, but he can no longer be with me. Kal Krishna Das was a sincere soul, but he was overwhelmed. Lord Chaitanya set a very high standard in the sense that he wanted to teach that we can't be whimsical about those things. But Nityananda Prabhu and all the other devotees, they arranged wonderful services for Kal Krishna Das. Go to Navadvip, be with Advaitacharya, be with Srivas Thakur, be with Sachi Mata, and tell them all the stories of Lord Chaitanya's Leelas in South India, and bring them Jagannath's Prasad, and bring them Lord Chaitanya's remnants. The devotees cared so dearly, even though he made a mistake. And Srila Prabhupada was so much like that too. He was very strong and uncompromising of the Siddhanta, but very compassionate, even knowing devotees' weaknesses, to give them the means by which they could become strong again, if they had that sincerity. If they were in a cheating mood, Prabhupada was very strong. But if they were humbled and sincere, he would encourage all of us. Sudama Vipra was a devotee. He was in poverty. When he came to Krishna's palace in Dwarka, Krishna washed his feet, put him on his own bed. Rukmini, the goddess of fortune, was fanning him. Krishna asked Sudama, after spending a whole night talking about their pastimes together in school when they were children, Krishna said, "Did you bring something for me?" Sudama didn't say anything, because he did bring something, but he was so ashamed. Before he left, his wife insisted you go. This is an interesting story. He was so thin, and his clothes were so tattered, and their house was just a little tiny hut of one room. And Sudama's wife couldn't bear seeing her husband in such poverty. Go to Krishna, he's your old friend. He's living in Dwarka on 16,108 palaces. He can give you something. Sudama went for his wife's sake. And his wife sent him for his sake. This is devotee care in the Grihastha ashram. The wife was simply thinking of him. She couldn't tolerate seeing him like this. She didn't mind anything. And he couldn't tolerate seeing her like that. He didn't mind anything. He said, how can I go without bringing him anything? So she went out begging and got some chipped rice, the cheapest food. If any of you ever become beggars, you will get a lot of chipped rice. Because it costs practically nothing. And people, they are accustomed to giving beggars the cheapest thing they have. Some people keep chipped rice in their house just for the beggars. He didn't even have a bag. That's how poor they were. He had to tie it up in his cloth. So when Krishna asked, did you bring something, he couldn't admit that he did. Because he was looking around at the magnificent palace. Nothing was made out of concrete. Not even reinforced concrete. It was solid marble and onyx and gold and silver and various metals and jewels beyond this world, from the spiritual world, and the heavenly planets. And Krishna grabbed the chipped rice and ate one morsel. Rukmini said, that's enough, don't take any more. Because she knew what that one morsel would mean, and it was just too much. On one hand, Rukmini couldn't tolerate seeing Krishna eating such dirty food, chipped rice. At the same time, she understood it was offered. It wasn't even offered with love. Krishna stole it with love. Yes. Usually if you want Krishna to eat, you have to take your bath and you have to prepare it according to proper archana padhati. Our deity worship ministry, they are teaching these things so nicely. And then mantra, tantra, yantra, mudra, puja, all these things have to be very much nice. And Krishna accepts. Then you chant the prayers. But in this case, because Sudama had so much devotion, Krishna was so hungry for that chipped rice that he stole it. And he praised the taste of the love of that chipped rice. Because Krishna is Bhava Grahi Janardana. He tastes our love. In the morning when Sudama went home, he was so happy that he met Krishna, and how Krishna treated him so beautifully. Even though he was in his mind, such an insignificant, unimportant, common little devotee, and Krishna is the supreme absolute personality of Godhead, still Krishna embraced him. Krishna washed his feet. Krishna cried upon seeing him. He wasn't thinking, that's how great I am. He was thinking, that's how great Krishna is. That he could see, he could be so merciful and see something good in me. But then he was thinking, but my poor wife, I never asked Krishna for anything, which I was supposed to do. But when he came to the area of his house, he saw beautiful palaces and so many incredible celestial people in fine garments. And he was thinking, where am I? Am I lost? And his wife came out. He didn't actually recognize her. She was like a goddess of fortune. And he was looking, thinking, who is this? And one of the people said, Sudama, that's your wife? And then he recognized. She smiled and he smiled, and they both cried because they understood this was Krishna's love for them. And it describes that for the rest of their lives they lived in these palaces, but they were in the same spirit as when they lived in the little straw hut. Everything was Krishna's. Everything was for Krishna. No ego, no selfishness. Everything was for seva. So husband and wife in this case, what was the devotee care between them, and what was the devotee care that Krishna gave them? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his pastimes took this to the limits. Lord Chaitanya would wash the clothes of his devotees. He would bring water for his devotees. He would carry loads. When they went shopping, he would carry it to their houses for them. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would love to take the dust of the feet of his devotees. He would love to serve prasad to his devotees. And he would assign his topmost senior acharyas, Swarup Damodar Goswami, Damodar Pandit, Jagadananda Pandit, they would take charge of serving all the devotees prasad. The other day, during the class that I was allowed to give in the presence of His Holiness Chowpatty Swami Maharaj, we were speaking of how Srila Prabhupada, how he gave so much faith to his devotees because devotees had so much conviction that he loved us. He cared for us. And if you talk to all those early devotees, and if we examine within our own hearts, whatever great things have been done in the Hare Krishna movement, the root of that is Srila Prabhupada's love and compassion for us. And sometimes when devotees who were Prabhupada's associates talk about their times with him, they speak about how he chastised them and how that was the highlight experience of their life. But somehow, after Srila Prabhupada left us, sometimes senior devotees, They were thinking, this is how a leader must be, chastise. And they would chastise. But the devotees that were chastised didn't consider it the highlight of their life. Oftentimes they became depressed, discouraged. Sometimes they left the temple or they left the movement because they felt so insulted or mistreated. Because if we're going to be a leader following in Prabhupada's footsteps, Prabhupada invested so much of his life, of his heart, in caring for us. Even if he was thousands of miles away, we were thinking, he's up at night translating these books because he cares about us. He's risking his health, traveling around the world again and again, even in his old age, because he cares about us. He's forming an organization with the GBC and temple presidents, and he's opening temples and farm communities because he cares about us, everything he did. And therefore, we felt so loved and protected by him. And therefore, if he did chastise us, we knew it's because he loves us. It's not because he was angry with us. It's because he loves us. And that anger was an expression of love for our benefit. There's a story that His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would tell. In 1966-67, he was distributing books in the library party in the communist countries of Eastern Europe. And the kinds of adventures that he embarked upon were incredible. He was putting himself on the line at every moment. He was going to places that were so dangerous and illegal to be, and with such enthusiasm. And he would write reports to Srila Prabhupada. And when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan during the last couple months of his life, and in Mumbai, Tamal Krishna Goswami would read the letters from Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who was then named Ganasham. And Prabhupada would love those letters. He would have Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj read them again and again. And if his god brothers came in or special guests come in, he would tell Tamal Krishna Goswami, read the letters of Ganasham. He was so proud. Srila Prabhupada, in that state, decided to travel to London, and it was proposed to go to America also. He arrived in London. Ganasham Prabhu was then traveling in Austria, I believe, with Krishna Kshetra Prabhu. And they drove all the way so many hours back to Germany. And as soon as they arrived, they were so tired. They heard Prabhupada was in London. So immediately they just got in the car and drove to London. And in the morning, when Tamal Krishna Goswami found out that Ganasham is here, he brought Ganasham to meet Srila Prabhupada. This is the person who's writing these letters to you about his distributing your books. Srila Prabhupada got up and embraced him. Cried, tears dropping on Ganasham. And Srila Prabhupada said as he was embracing him, thank you very much. Your life is perfect. Now, devotees witness this. How many of you were embraced by Srila Prabhupada? Please raise your hand. How many of you have Prabhupada with such affection dropped the tears of his love on your body? Not me. The word spread what mercy he received. And he felt, you can't imagine the ecstasy he was in. The next day, Tamal Krishna Goswami saw how pleased Prabhupada was, and everybody, their only desire was to please Prabhupada. And everybody knew the best way to please Prabhupada is that we are united and we're pleasing each other. A mother, a father, one of their greatest concerns is how their children love each other. Yes. I'm a Swami, I don't know much about him, but whenever I talk to my father, he says, my greatest happiness is when I see you and your brothers love each other. And I'd say, yes, I love them. They're spirit souls, I love them. It's interesting because I'm a Swami and I have nothing in common with anybody in my family. Everybody likes me because there's nothing to fight with me about. But anyways, the news spread and everyone was congratulating Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and how fortunate you are. And Tamal Krishna Goswami called him today, because Ganesham sent him another letter with a report. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, today you read the letter to Srila Prabhupada. So many of your letters I've been reading and Bhakti Charu Maharaj have been reading. But now, how happy Prabhupada will be if you read it to him, the author reading it. Am I disturbing the slideshow? I don't know PowerPoint, but I'm trying to make a powerful point. Ganesham was thrilled. He was absolutely thrilled. I get to read my own letter to Prabhupada today. And Tamal Krishna Goswami told him so many times in letters he would write to him, Prabhupada would cry when he would hear your letter, he would be laughing when he would hear your letter, he would praise your letter, he would praise you. So what was he expecting? To actually see with his own eyes what he's been hearing about, how Prabhupada loves his letters. So he started, Prabhupada was laying in his bed. He started reading. Srila Prabhupada didn't look at him. In fact, he totally ignored him. As he started the first line of the letter, Prabhupada started talking to somebody else. He didn't know if he was supposed to keep reading or stop. So he kind of stopped, and then he started reading again, and then Prabhupada was silent, and then he started reading again, and Prabhupada started talking to someone else. And he kind of kept reading, and Prabhupada was just talking, and then he stopped, and then Prabhupada stopped, and then as soon as he started reading, Prabhupada started talking to someone. And Prabhupada never once looked in his direction. And Ganesham was really transcendentally traumatized. He didn't know what to do. And Tamal Krishna Goswami was seeing this, and he didn't know what to do. He said, Ganesham, better you don't read the letter now. And he just kind of took him out of the room, and Prabhupada was just looking somewhere else. Ganasham said, even though for a few moments it pained his heart so deeply, he said, the ecstasy, the happiness that he feels when he thinks back of that is many times greater than when Prabhupada embraced him, said your life is perfect, and cried on him. Because he knew that if Srila Prabhupada was chastising me, it's because he cares about me, because he loves me. He wants to purify me. Everything's a gift. Tatenu kampam susamikshamano. This is the Vaishnava's consciousness. Whatever Krishna sends, it's his mercy. And however Srila Prabhupada dealt with his devotees, it was for our benefit out of love. And I was reading Krishna Kshetra's Prabhu book about his remembrances of Prabhupada. And he was explaining at that time, Ganasham and himself were in an assembly of devotees with Srila Prabhupada. And some devotees were telling Srila Prabhupada, this is in 1977, when Srila Prabhupada physically, he was very emaciated, he couldn't even eat. He had to be carried by 4 devotees on a palanquin, or sometimes 2 devotees because he was so light. And they were telling Srila Prabhupada about East Germany during communism. They said people were standing in line for blocks to get the simplest, cheapest food. That's how bad it is. And Krishna Kshetra tells Prabhupada began to cry. He said, see how they are misusing these people. These people don't even have milk or butter or sugar to eat. He was crying for them. Srila Prabhupada, what to speak of the people of East Germany who never heard of Krishna? Prabhupada was crying for them. His tears were for all of us because he cared so much. I'll tell you a little personal story, which is really insignificant compared to the one I told about Bhakti Tirtha Swami. I was living in New Vrindavan, and I was way up on this isolated mountain, and there was no communications with anyone else in the community hardly, or the world, and I was milking cows and doing some deity worship, and I would make sandesh. And because there was not too many distractions up there, you know, there were some snakes, and there were some rats, and it was cold. But those kind of distractions are kind of nice for brahmacharis. Anyways, so I could really focus on whatever I was doing. So I was making sandesh and really putting my heart into it. And whenever devotees would go to see Prabhupada, they would bring him a special box of the sandesh I would make. I would usually give up my sleeping for about 2 or 3 days just to make special sandesh to send to him. And one time, just to encourage me, he said, who has made this sandesh? Devotee said, a brahmachari named Radhanath. He said, this is the best sandesh. You should train your brahmacharis to be like this Radhanath. So when I heard this, I was very happy. But there's more to come. So do not get too enthusiastic. So then he was coming to New Vrindavan, and they said, make so much. So for about a week I didn't sleep. I made like 50 varieties of sandesh, and they were all different colors and layers and flavors. I put them on a beautiful tray that was, in the deity room, and went to the airport, and they were going to give it to Prabhupada in the airport. And Prabhupada's assistant said, no, don't give him in the airport. He said, this is so beautiful. He'll just take a little piece and give them away. Put him in the car, so when he's in the car, he can eat them so nicely. So they put him in the car. But then they forgot to give it to him. And Prabhupada came into his house, and I came to the house, and some of the leaders said, where's the sandesh? Prabhupada's asking for your sandesh. He came all this way, he wants your sandesh. And I said, I made so much. He said, well, where is it? I said, it was put in the car. He said, well, get it. So I ran to the car, and it was surrounded by devotees. And I said, where's the tray of sandesh? They said, oh, it was very good. It was Prabhupada's Mahaprasad. Prabhupada never even saw it. Do you like the story so far? So then he said, make sandesh for me. He told somebody else to tell me for 3 times a day. So I was doing, along with milking cows and doing kirtans and doing deity worship. And then I went into Prabhupada's room once. And he was one of the leaders of our society. He said, this is Radhanath. He's the one who makes the sandesh that's always being sent to you that you like so much. Now, this is the first and only time in my life I was in front of Prabhupada personally on the subject of the sandesh. And I was just on my knees looking up at him, and they said, he's the one that makes the sandesh for you. And Prabhupada didn't look at me. He looked at someone else and said, and who makes the samosas? Why am I not getting my samosas? You can hear this on tape, but the one thing you can't hear on tape is my mind. And I felt so good. If I did that to someone, they would be insulted. But when Prabhupada does it, you feel elated because he invested his heart in caring for us so much. Srila Prabhupada was a personification of devotee care. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of the devotees together. I was speaking yesterday. When Nimai Pandit came back from Gaya as a devotee, it was such news among the Vaishnavas. Srivas Thakur and all the devotees for several years were praying to Krishna. They were doing their japa and their kirtan and their puja, praying, Krishna, make Nimai a devotee. We love him so much, but we can't tolerate being near him because he's always talking grammar and all of that. But if he becomes a devotee, everyone will become devotees. So in the morning, Srivas Thakur was collecting flowers from his vine for his deity worship. And Sriman Pandit came and said, I have the most auspicious news for you. And Srivas said, what? Everyone likes auspicious news. He said, Nimai has become a devotee. And he's a devotee like no other devotee has ever seen. He just cries out Krishna's names in incessant tears. His hairs stand on end. His limbs tremble as he's telling the sorrow of his heart in separation from Krishna. And Srivas Thakur became jubilant. The words he spoke, very significant to us. He said, "Let our family increase." Because Vaishnavas are a family. And because they share much chita madgata prana katyantascha mamnityam tushyante charamanticha. They feel so much pleasure inspiring and enlightening one another about Krishna. And they have jivadoya. The nature of love for Krishna is we love the devotees. We want to serve the devotees. And we want to share this gift with all the fallen souls of this world. Srila Prabhupada, he loved Krishna. And he wanted this family of devotees to expand all over the world. Srivas Angam, during Mahaprakash, Lord Chaitanya was fulfilling the desires of all his devotees, revealing his divine form just according to their love, and giving the fulfillment of every desire of their heart, and praising them, sometimes as if he had 5 mouths, sometimes as if he had thousands of mouths. There has never been happiness anywhere in the history of creation like there was during the Mahaprakash Leela in Srivasangam, here in Mayapur town. Srivas asked Lord Chaitanya, "Why have you called everyone? And you're praising all of us, and you're giving us all the highest ecstasies of prema bhakti. But why are you not calling Mukunda, Dutt? You're neglecting him. He's feeling broken-hearted. What has he done?" Lord Chaitanya's reply, "Don't ever say that wretched rascal's name again to me." Srivas said, "But what has he done? If he's made a mistake, certainly you can forgive him. How much he loves us, how much he loves you, how much you love him, how much we all love him. When he sings kirtan, our hearts melt in ecstasy with love for you and Krishna. Please, give him your mercy." All the devotees were crying in agony because Mukunda was suffering. Lord Chaitanya said, "I will not see him I don't ever want to see his face again, because he was associating with the wrong people." This is something very important to understand. For most of us, we would think, well, I got all my benedictions, and I got my darshan. Mukunda must be in Maya. They felt no happiness with what they received. They were totally focused that Mukunda is suffering. Just like when something goes wrong in the body, every part of the body focuses on trying to heal that part. That's the Vaishnava family. And they cried and begged Lord Chaitanya, "Please give him your mercy." Mukunda said, "Will I ever see the Lord again?" And Lord Chaitanya said, "Tell him, after 10 million births he could see me. And when Mukunda heard that, he was so happy. He was dancing. 10 million births, only 10 million births, I will see the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya saw him dancing in ecstasy because he understood the value of the darshan of the Lord. Some of us get impatient after 2 or 3 or 20 or 30 or 40 years. But Mukunda was willing to wait and continue with total enthusiasm to chant the holy names and do his seva and follow all the principles for 10 million births. That was a small price to see the Lord. That was the nature of his gratitude. He didn't take it cheaply. Lord Chaitanya was so pleased. He said, Mukunda, your enthusiasm and your gratitude and your faith in my words have completely alleviated any offenses. In fact, you never even made an offense. I just wanted to show the world how great you are. Bring him here now. So they said, Mukunda, the Lord wants to see you now. But he was in samadhi, dancing samadhi. Crying samadhi. 10 million births, 10 million births. I will wait, it's wonderful. And they picked him up and brought him right before Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya bestowed all of his mercy upon him. King Prataparudra. Lord Chaitanya refused to see him because of social lessons that he wanted to show us. He wanted to show us that those in the renounced order should not depend on people with money or position. King Prataparudra became so discouraged. The devotees, all of them, Nityananda Prabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Ramananda Rai, were making all these different arrangements to keep the king enlivened, inspired. And ultimately they arranged for him to massage Lord Chaitanya's feet and sing the gopi songs of love for Krishna in separation. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him again and again and again. Lord Chaitanya bathed him with his tears, and Prataparudra bathed Lord Chaitanya with his tears, and Lord Chaitanya said, you are the most munificent because through your singing the Srimad Bhagavatam, these beautiful verses, you are giving me Krishna. One who speaks the glories of Krishna is the most munificent of all welfare givers. When the devotees saw that, their ultimate happiness was seeing another devotee getting blessings. And Srila Prabhupada there tells something very significant. He says, if we are envious to see another person succeeding or getting the mercy or blessings of the Lord, then we are not a Vaishnava. Vaishnava means no envy. Vaishnava means we feel the greatest happiness when we see someone else getting blessed, receiving the Lord's good fortune. And all the devotees taught us, what is real devotee care? And within our movement, these are the types of activities that really connect to our heart. When we see results of various ways, whether it's in buildings or stores, that touches our hearts. But when we see how devotees are willing to put their own lives and comforts aside to help another devotee to do great things, to do wonderful things, or even when they're in despair, it gives us such deep faith in what Prabhupada has really given us. Yesterday, Gauranga Prabhu was asking about the various different types of services that devotees have. And certainly the service that Prabhupada emphasized most was book distribution. But for book distributors, or GBCs, or presidents, or pujaris, or scientific preachers, or farmers, or cow protectors, or mothers, or fathers, or teachers, or movie makers, whatever a devotee is doing, without the care and the encouragement of other Vaishnavas, it's very, very difficult to continue on with enthusiasm. The greatest care we can give to devotees is to have relations with each other where we empower each other with enthusiasm. And leadership is not only to do that personally by our example, but also to inspire others to do that for each other, and to inspire systems by which we can make sure that devotees are being nourished with bhakti. To understand what is our philosophy properly. Who is Srila Prabhupada? What is Vaishnava etiquette? What is the importance of sadhana, chanting the holy names, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita? How to actually deal with the problems, with the challenges that come inevitably, whether we're grihastas or brahmacharis or whatever, with integrity, where we help each other as leaders, as equals, as seniors, as juniors. We're all trying to help each other to take shelter of Krishna during these experiences that come in our lives. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Maharaj, for making many powerful points. And I'll just take you through some of these slides as Maharaj gave various examples of Srila Prabhupada's devotee care, how he would care for different devotees in so many ways. I would like to read these two letters. One is a purport from 6th canto. This is the mission of life, one's own body and the bodies of his friends and relatives, as well as one's own riches, and everything else one has should be engaged for the benefit of others. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is from a letter to Rupanuga Prabhu, May 1972. Now I want that we shall concentrate on making our devotees Krishna conscious and ourselves becoming Krishna conscious, and not be so much concerned with expanding ourselves widely, but without any spiritual content. Just like boiling the milk, it becomes thicker and sweeter. Now do like that, boil the milk. So a few points on why we emphasize on devotee care, as Maharaj mentions in his presentation. Care is the essence. Ours is a personal philosophy. The more our devotees are happy, the more it will transform the hearts of newcomers when they see that this is a movement which keeps devotees happy. And once the devotees are enthused, then automatically the projects will also expand. And these are some of the repercussions of neglecting devotee care. When devotees don't feel cared, they may leave the association. Devotees start seeking shelter in other things. Marriages may be disturbed. And for those in the renounced order, they may start seeking shelter in other things, they may be distracted. And now we would like to really focus on hearing from Maharaj on some of the efforts at Sri Radha Gopinath temple at ISKCON Chowpatty, identifying the needs and nature of the devotee, providing them guidance and training them for physical, social, emotional and spiritual well-being, and engaging them in suitable occupation, duty and services, and to create a support system for the individual to grow organically. So, Maharaj, would you like to touch upon the whole concept of the counselor system, and how did you think of this kind of a system when we do not directly read in Srila Prabhupada's purports any kind of a word like counselor system or mentor system or something like that? So how do we understand the functioning of this system and its implications?
Its implications. Namruchi, Jivadoya, Vaishnava Seva. These are three great pillars that are the essence of Dharma, the essence of the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they are all very interconnected. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made Haridas Thakur the Nam Acharya. He is the one who's teaching us how to chant the holy name by his example. And what was his compassion? Jivadoya. He was happily volunteering to be beaten to 22 marketplaces, all the while forgiving his tormentors while chanting the holy names and praying for their salvation. And what was his loving relationship with Nityananda Prabhu, with Advaitacharya, with so many others? He taught us, for Namruchi, compassion and Vaishnava Seva are inseparable. Namruchi means to get a taste for chanting. So devotee care is just a way of expressing in English Vaishnava Seva, service to the devotees. Prabhupada is our Acharya, and he taught us by his example how he cared for all of us. As was said, he considered us the representatives of his Guru Maharaj because we were helping him. So all the devotees are Srila Prabhupada's children or grandchildren. We have no claim over any of them. If we're leaders in our society, we are being bestowed the great honor of being the humble caretakers for Prabhupada's children. Sometimes by taking care of their bodies, their minds, their souls. So this concept of Vaishnava Seva is throughout Prabhupada's books and throughout the personal example of his life and our acharyas. So when we started our little temple in Mumbai, it was a tiny little room, maybe about 10 times the size of this PowerPoint screen. And there was many rats and many cockroaches and a couple brahmacharis. No, I'm not going to go into details because there's not much time. But it was so easy for live with the rats and cockroaches compared to living with the brahmacharis. They were fighting. They were really fighting. I was horrified. But somehow or other, we all tried to make things work. And gradually we got more space in the congregation. It was a small congregation. It was growing, and little by little some really nice brahmacharis started coming. And we developed a community. And I was, very much trying to personally help many people. But what happened is I started getting complaints that I was neglecting people. And I was thinking in my mind, I'm not neglecting people. But then I realized neglecting people is not about what I'm thinking. It's about what the devotees are thinking. And that was an interesting realization, that in our service to the Vaishnavas, and also in preaching Krishna consciousness to the world, we're not going to be very successful if they are relevant to my conceptions. We have to become relevant to them in the conditions that they may be in for them to actually receive what we're trying to give. That doesn't in any way mean compromising our siddhanta or our culture. It means compassion. I heard a story when I was a young devotee a few times. So when you hear something a few times, you kind of think it's true. Prabhupada was in Europe, and there was a lady. She was a very beautiful, fashionable lady, and she had really nice hair and nice clothes, and very fancy kind of hairdresser hair. And she would come to the temple, and devotees would tell her she's in Maya. Why your hair is like that? Because, the ladies would cover their heads and braid and everything. But, she was attached. So she was kind of getting discouraged. And Prabhupada came, and a devotee brought her to meet Prabhupada. And she was on the verge of not coming to the temple anymore because she thought nobody liked her because of her hair. And the first thing Prabhupada said to her was, "Your hair is so beautiful." She started to cry. And after she came out, she put her hair in braids and a sari. Because she knew that Prabhupada didn't really think that, but just the fact that he said that meant he cared about her. So it's relevant. His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj gave a wonderful seminar yesterday about being relevant to people in first world countries. To present Krishna consciousness as it is. Sociologically, I'm going to give a little analysis. I'm sorry if I'm disturbing the PowerPoint. But in the 1960s and 70s, most every person that came to our movement was coming out of the counterculture. Do the young people know what the counterculture is? It was the hippie movement. And we had our own language, and we had our own handshakes, and we had our own music, and we had our own mantras. It wasn't the Maha Mantra. But we know how we were, civil rights, anti-war, Vietnam, anti-establishment. We really spoke each other's language. And our movement, when devotees came to Krishna, when these people came to Krishna consciousness, we really knew how to preach to people. Now I'm going to give an example. I was a sadhu in the Himalayas, at least I was trying to be.
And I was traveling around, living with sadhus, and I was, basically following the four-glitter principles out of common sense. And I came to Mumbai, and I met Prabhupada and the devotees at Cross Maidan. And one of the most successful, powerful preachers in the history of ISKCON, who was making literally hundreds and hundreds of young people in America, devotees, he saw me. And he knew how to preach to me. At least he thought. He said, if you think LSD makes you high, you should try this chanting of Hare Krishna. And I looked at him. I didn't say anything because I was really shy. I was thinking, what are you talking about? I don't want anything to do with LSD. I left that behind years ago to the search for truth, and you're telling me about LSD again? But he kept saying, no, I didn't say anything. This is what was going in my mind. He was talking about how LSD, what it does to you. Well, Krishna consciousness, you could go up like that and never come down. And I was saying, then I don't want Krishna consciousness. If it's like LSD and never come down. So the reason I'm telling you this story is it's important if we want to reach people to be relevant to the way they perceive life, to their needs, to their struggles. So because counterculture people were preaching to other counterculture people, we knew how to give Krishna consciousness as it is in a way that they could really connect to, because we knew we connected in the same way. But as the years change, geographically, time, people don't have the same way of looking at the world. Srila Prabhupada, he was living as a Paramhamsa saint in Vrindavan, but he could be relevant to prime ministers, to archbishops, to prostitutes, to the drunkards in the Bowery. He could be relevant to the hippies. Somebody asked Prabhupada, what is a hippie? Prabhupada said, something extraordinary. Because Prabhupada cared so much, because he had such compassion, he could give Krishna consciousness without compromise in a way that we could it transcended all of our differences, because he was making himself relevant to us. So when I heard that devotees felt neglected, I realized I don't even know they're neglected. And it's beyond me, it's growing. So it's the way Vaishnava culture has always been. We teach students to be teachers. And then the teachers teach their students to become teachers. And in this way, teaching the culture of Vaishnavism, which is care, which includes sadhana, philosophy, seva, puja, and Vaishnava relationships. This is all part of devotee care. So we started with 4 counselors. And it was a struggle. And people would voluntarily, if they wanted somebody that was just a senior person who could actually really help them in their understanding of the teachings, understanding Prabhupada, understanding Vaishnava relationships, understanding husband and wife relationships, relationships with our occupation, relationships with our children, relationships with our in-laws, relationship between other men and other women, relationships with the greater secular world. What do we do with money? How much? All these things people don't know. And the purpose of, we called them counselors. It's really a pretty bad name, but that's what we started with, and it worked, so we still use that name. But some people call it a mentor system, some people call it Bhakti Briksha. They may be different kinds of formulated systems, but the system is not what's important. It's the principle that the system represents of giving the nourishment and care that every devotee needs to inspire and enliven people with faith. So that in every crossroads of life that they go through until they die, from the time they're joined to the time they die, they love to be in ISKCON. They feel a family of support in ISKCON. And they're inspired to chant the holy names, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and share this wonderful gift with the world. So gradually, as time went on, how many mentors are there? So basically we have now, just in Mumbai alone, 190 such groups. 70 counselors, and that means husband and wife families, and 120 mentors, which is part of that same system, but they're just working under senior pupils' guidance. So there's about 190, and each of them has about 30 families or something. 25 to 30 families each one has, and each family has 2 to 5 or 6 children, whatever. So there's a lot of shortcomings, a lot of challenges, but everybody's really trying to make sure everyone is being given the opportunity. To what extent people receive the opportunity, that is another thing, but as leaders, we should be confident that everyone is getting the fullest possible opportunity to spiritually grow and to actually find true happiness in being a devotee.
So we'll just run through the purpose of the counselor system. Interestingly, this is both for the Grihastha and the Brahmachari ashram. For spiritual training, it's a system of personal care for facilitating 6 loving exchanges, and it also facilitates the channel of communication from the temple across the congregation. Then we just send out an email or a message to the counselors and the mentors, and it just gets passed on. So these are some of the qualifications of the counselor. In terms of his spiritual standing, a counselor is expected to be having strict sadhana, very good Vaishnava etiquette, philosophically astute, mature and sober. In terms of his social standing, he should be actively serving in ISKCON. They should be stable in their ashram. Should be having a spirit of sacrifice, genuine compassion and concern, avoid extremism. And in terms of skills, they should be empathic listeners and be able to give balanced advice to those whom they are counseling. So would you like to speak something on just this aspect about what is one of the main things you would emphasize in terms of the qualities of a counselor, or what a counselor should be representing?
It's interesting because we, over the years, developed this system for the Grihastas. So some of the brahmacharis were telling me that they were thinking maybe they should get married so they could be part of the counselor system. And some of the brahmacharis were feeling neglected, which was completely inconceivable to us. So we started the same system for the brahmacharis. Obviously, this was many years ago. It's adjusted accordingly. But the most important thing, some of these qualities, we have some literatures which go into a much more detail. The two most important qualities, which include all of these, is that a person is really exemplary these qualities. Their sadhana, their enthusiasm for service, their loyalty and dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission, and their willingness and their joyfulness to share these gifts with other people, because they actually really want to help. They want to serve. If a person, something that is so beautiful, when a person takes the responsibility to help other people in their spiritual life, and this kind of system means it's not just a responsibility we're talking to somebody once and then that's all. It's year after year after year. Because they took these responsibilities and because they were dealing with other people's lives, they learned so much. And they made so much spiritual advancement and felt so deeply connected to Krishna because they were doing this service for others. Imagine, I'm actually being given responsibility in compassion for Prabhupada's devotees. These people are being entrusted under my care. They're not my property, they're Prabhupada's property. And if somebody takes that seriously, Srila Prabhupada blesses them so much. And they become years and years accelerated in their spiritual advancement. Prabhupada said, we make advancement by how we take responsibility in Krishna consciousness. And responsibility for Vaishnavas. In a temple setup, there's usually just a few people in offices who have those responsibilities. But in this system, even in the congregation, so many people could take responsibilities. They flourish.
Thank you, Maharaj. And we have run out of time now. So we will continue from this point onwards. We would really like to express our gratitude to His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj from the bottom of our heart.